Construya su video rocola.
Passive two-way crossover. Presents a circuit that receives the amplifier signal audio full range and delivery distributed separately in two frequency groups. The first crossover is for tweeter and woofer, and the second version is professional, for speaker driver and woofer, ideal for use in active or passive speaker cabins, which are so famous and marketed today. Features. The two-way crossover consists of two circuits. A high-pass filter, ranging from 2500 Hz to the working tweeter capacity, and a low-pass filter, ranging from 20 Hz to 2000 Hz. Materials and tools. The materials list and tools necessary for the construction of the two-way crossover, you will find it on the website, construyasavideorocola.com. Construction. To build the woofer coil framework, required a thick very rigid cardboard, of at least 3 mm. For this reason you must stick 3 sheets of cardboard, making a sandwich. Between each sheet, apply a lot of wood glue. Place a plank, and over it enough weight, so that the adhesion between the sheets is optimal. While drying the cardboard sheets, prepare the silicon iron sheets should. As when buying the plates, they do not sell separately. The I and the E must be cut the E sheets, to be able to use them. So, you do not lose half of the material. Each sheet is flattened with the help of a hammer. And polished the edge, where the cut was made. This is done with all the E-shaped plates. Take the 23 silicon iron sheets, and join them with masking tape. They should be well adjusted, and aligned. So, these plates become the core of the coil. Take the sheets, and measure the distance between two inner edges of the holes. This measure is transferred to two places on the cardboard sheet. Cut the cardboard sheet, using a scalpel and a ruler. Then, place the core on the edge of the cardboard strip, and a turn is rolled. Mark the point where the cardboard was finished to wind, and it is cut the excess. It is verified that the cardboard was tailored, and it hugs around the core, using the instant glue. Now that the cardboard sheet's sandwich is ready, mark the width, which will take the sides covers of the framework. This measure is transferred to the upper part of the cardboard, and cut with the scalpel. Then mark the same measure on the cardboard strip, and add 5 mm, so you get a rectangle. And cut 2 equal pieces. Now, using the end of the core as a mold, a square is drawn in the center of the cardboard. The box is cut with the spearhead scalpel, until a window is made. You should polish very well with the scalpel. Until the coil core enters just to the measure. The window is traced on the other piece of cardboard. They must be 2 equal pieces. A window fit on one side of the core. And place the other window on the other side of the core. Apply the instant adhesive is to both lids of the sides, with the center of the framework. To give resistance to the edges, apply instant adhesive. And for the entire framework to become stiffer, apply white glue. After the glue dries, paint the framework with varnish or oil-based paint. This gives rigidity to the cardboard, protects it from moisture, and gives it a good finish. The framework should have 2 holes that match the perforations of the PCB through which the coil wire will pass. Make the 2 perforations. The holes are totally opposite, diagonally. Insert the wire into the hole that is bordering to the core. Secure the tip. And wind the 7 meters of 18 gauge wire. It must be tight, without mounting one turn in the next turn, and there must be no space between the turns. The all wire turns should be ordered and symmetrical. When you finish winding the 7 meters of wire, you should try to do it at the opposite end to the one that began to wind, and then extract the tip of the wire through the other hole of the framework. This ensures that the wire does not unroll, and stays tight. Sand both ends of the wire. These will be the coil terminals, which will enter the printed circuit. Cut the excess of wire. And verify the correct coil inductance. With the multimeter in the 20 mH scale, a tip is connected to each terminal of the coil. You must measure 1 mH satisfactorily. Now, cover the coil with a long strip of clear adhesive paper. This protects the wire from possible peeling. For the tweeter coil, is used as a framework a reel of tape, of the same used in first aid. Make a hole in the cylinder, the most adjacent to the spool ring. and the other hole on the ring edge. Insert the wire into the cylinder hole. Secure the wire by mounting a turn, and begins to wind the 10.8 meters of 22 gauge magnet wire, taking into account that it is not mounted, or with very large spaces, between one turn and another turn. The wire should be as tight as possible. The wire turns should be clusters and ordered. You remember that the magnet wire has a dielectric varnish bath that isolates each turn. You should not peel the wire. When winding end the 10.8 meters of wire, the tip of the end is inserted in the outer edge hole to ensure that the wire is not unwound. Using a piece of coarse-grained sandpaper, sand both ends tip of the coil wire. This is done in order to remove the dielectric varnish, and thus have an electricity conduction, which allows to coil measure. To verify that the coil is the correct value, place the multimeter on the 20 mH scale, and connect a tip to each coil terminal. It should measure 0.30 mH approximately. Now, isolate the coil with clear adhesive paper. The other woofer coil is built in the same mode and should measure 0.28 mH. Now, place all the components on the PCB board. It starts with the resistors. Then, place the capacitors. Watch out the polarity. Place the negative poles facing each other. And finally place the coils. Weld all components. The welding and the soldering iron are joined simultaneously on the point to be welded. Cut the components' terminals excess. The input and output connectors can be the spade PCB male terminal type, or as in this case, the pins of a Molex terminal were recycled. Place the terminals. And weld them. Watch all the terminals placed and correctly welded. The woofer coil is secured with through screws, washers, and nuts. They should be tight enough, but do not bend the PCB card. The coils with air core are secured with a little silicone. Also the nuts are secured with silicone, so that the speaker vibration does not loosen them. We have assembled our two-way crossover. Remember to very well clean the card on the side of the tracks. Now, listen to the live sound test.
¿Qué tal, amigos? Esta es la prueba de sonido de nuestro crossover de 2 vías, también llamado divisor de frecuencia de 2 vías. Se utiliza mucho en las cabinas activas y pasivas. Bueno, la versión que está acá es para tweeter y woofer. También tenemos esta otra versión que es para driver y woofer, mucho más robusta para amplificadores y parlantes mucho más potentes. Comencemos por escuchar entonces cómo funciona nuestra versión de tweeter y woofer. Escuchemos el woofer. Como se escucha, tiene banda media, lógicamente, porque es un crossover de 2 vías. Si quisiéramos que era solo bajo, tendríamos que subir esta bobina a unos 3.6 milihenrios, pero ya no sería entonces un crossover de 2 vías, se desequilibra. Debe dar frecuencia media. Bien, entonces ahora lo que tenemos que hacer es probar el tweeter en su sitio. Vamos a escuchar. Ahí está la salida del tweeter. Es bastante agudo y definido. Si quisieran que tuviera más banda media, también tendrían que subir esta bobina. Pero ese es el punto ideal.
Now let's watch a more professional version of the two-way crossover. It uses better quality components, supports more power, and is calibrated for driver unit and woofer. The PCB was made in fiberglass, which is stronger than bakelite. Use high-voltage polyester capacitors and a bulb fuse frequencies protector, which protects the driver unit. The assembly is very simple. After assembling the air core coils, in recycled welding spools, and the woofer coil, with the same technique that watched previously, place each component, as shown in the drawing. Install the fuse. And the coils are secured with plates, screws, and nuts. We already have an ideal audio frequency divider for modern speaker cabinets. Now let's listen to the live sound test.
Bueno, ahora vamos a escuchar el sonido de nuestro otro crossover, el que es más potente y que es para usar con driver y woofer. Escuchemos el woofer. También tiene banda media, lógicamente por lo que ya hablamos, es un crossover de 2 vías y debe poder reemplazar el parlante medio. Bueno, ahora escuchemos el driver. También tiene un poquito de banda media, que es lo ideal. Así entre los dos parlantes completan todas las frecuencias. Y a continuación veremos cómo se encajan los crossovers dentro de los baffles o cabinas.
Installation of the crossover in its corresponding cabinet. The speakers box are designed in such a way that they contribute to the sound quality. Its design is incoherent with the crossover for tweeter and woofer. Its construction is very simple. The blueprints with the measures to build them are found on the website construyasavideorocola.com. To achieve an excellent sound, it is necessary to soundproof the box, making an acoustic conditioning with wadding or felt. Since the sound is stereo, 2 identical crossovers are built. Prepare 6 pieces of polarized cable to make all the connections. The cables are prepared as follows. Separate both cables. Remove the insulation about 5 mm, twisting the wires. Tin both wire ends. Then, tin the crossover terminals. Previously, pieces of shrinkable tube are prepared and introduced in both cable ends. Each cable is welded to each terminal, taking into account the polarity. Cover with thermo-shrinkable tube, and fire is applied. The same operation is done with all the cables. Now, place the crossover inside the box. This is screwed to the box floor. On the back of the box, extract the input cables, and weld the pressure terminal. And screw. Place the speaker vent tube in its place. Now weld the cables to the tweeter, watch out the polarity. And secure with screw. Finally, weld the woofer cables. And secure with screw. And we have ready the two-way speaker cabinet. Both cabinets were assembled in the same way. And to finish, let's listen to our speaker cabinets live.
Bueno amigos, como pueden darse cuenta, estas cabinas suenan perfectamente, tienen un sonido muy equilibrado, buen bajo, tiene también buenos agudos. Espero les guste el proyecto, ya saben, lo encontrarán en nuestra página construyasuvideorocola.com. Saludos a todos.